Hi Leslie, Connie, and Becky. I just wanted to make a little video to show you guys how I set up the FTP accounts for my Bluehost for my students. That way I didn't have to give them space in my Dropbox again this year. I did Dropbox last year. I actually use Dropbox for everything myself, but I had some students that were saving into wrong folders and were saving over old stuff. So I figured since the Bluehost account is already here, might as well use it. And it teaches them another good way to reinforce their FTP skills. So Becky, I'm sure you already know how to do this, but I just wanted to show Leslie and Connie in case they wanted to set it up. So first thing, if you just go to bluehost.com, it'll boot you over to mybluehost.com. And my username is ecargid. Yours would be, similar, L Cullen GID. C Porter GID, and I went in and reset my password, which I think the passwords they give us, if I remember correctly, were like really bad generic passwords, so I would probably recommend that. I also noticed that logging in, depending on the time of day, sometimes Bluehost kind of goes slow, so give it time, it's loading. So when you log in, this is what the control panel is going to look like. I can't remember if this is the first place it brings you when you first log in. I think it might look a little different the first time. It'll bring you to kind of more of an introductory. It'll list the type of things your Bluehost can do. But once you've kind of set all that up, then it will look like this. So first thing you're going to have to do is come down to Files here and go to your File Manager. So you can either set up your students' files through your file manager here, or you could connect through CyberDuck and set up your files there. I'm already here, so I'm just going to go into the file manager to do it. I did talk to the people at Bluehost though, because I noticed, and I'll show you here, that when I created my new files, so here on the left, here's my public underscore HTML. Anything that's in public HTML is what's actually going to be visible on the web. So for some reason, when I started setting up these files, some of my students' folders ended up in public, and some, as you can see, ended up outside public. So even the ones that are outside are actually okay. They can log in and they can store stuff on them. So if you're just using it for storage, like an Erida server, then this would be okay. But if they're storing a website and they want to be able to view it live on the web, it has to be in this public HTML. So I talked to the people at Bluehost and they said, they literally told me that File Manager is kind of crappy and does that sometimes. So if you happen to notice when you create a folder that it ended up out here, don't panic, just come back in and add a new one in here. So I'm going to come into public HTML here and I'm going to add a new folder. I'm going to do L. So just to make things easy, I set up all my students' folders as full first name hyphen full last name. That way if anyone had any questions, they're all the same. New folder will be created in public HTML, create new folder. And we wait, and here you are, Leslie Cullen. Leslie Cullen. You'll notice there's no plus sign next to your name because there's nothing in this folder yet, and it's in public HTML. Perfect. So now the student folder is set up, and now we are going to leave File Manager. I'm just going to go back. Back to my, whoops, double back. Back to my dashboard. So, oops, no. Oops, I went out too far. Keeps trying to bring me to File Manager, which I don't want. Okay, perfect. So we're back to my dashboard here, or they call it the cPanel. And that's just my main dash. So now that I've set up my new file through File Manager, now I want to come to FTP. So right on your top bar up here, this white it's not really the top bar, sub bar. I'm going to click on FTP. And that brings me here. So here's all my FTP accounts. So what you want to do, and you'll see I set up all my accounts for my students here, is we're going to pick a login. So I did their login is the same as their folder. Pretty easy. So I would do your login. So now remember that your login for the student is not just Leslie Cullen. The full login is actually Leslie Cullen at ecar-gid.com. They have to include this part here or they will not be able to log in through CyberDuck. Password, I just did, so if it was GID 204, I did all caps GID 204, and then you have to include punctuation. GID 204. I did every single student in GID 209 got GID 209 period as their password, and everybody in 204 got GID 204 period unless they were in GID 209, in which case I set that one up first, so that was their password. If one student is in more than one class of yours, whatever class they met with you first, that was their password. That's kind of what I figured because they're not going to have two passwords. So directory, this is where we want to make sure our directory needs to include, so home, ecar-gid, it needs to include public_HTML / Leslie Cullen. So we know it's the folder within my public HTML folder. I just gave them unlimited space and create FTP account. It does this, ignore that. Error, you already have an FTP user, Leslie Cullen. No, it didn't. It just created it, and then it says that there's an error that it exists. So I don't actually know why it gives you that error. I think Bluehost is just glitchy. So now if I click on you here, here is you're in, this is your folder that you have privileges to access. Home, ecar-gid, public HTML, Leslie. So now, if I were to launch CyberDuck, that's all there is to it. I'm just going to get out of there. I would open my connection. So my server would be ftp.ecar-gid.com. So if this was on, say, your website, Connie, it would be ftp.cporter-gid.com. It will rewrite it here for you as the URL. Username, Leslie Cullen at ecar-gid.com. Now, if we notice our URL here has changed to FTP, Leslie Cullen at ecar-gid.com at ftp.ecar-gid.com. So if you don't see your website twice in a row up here, I know it looks weird and redundant, but you have to see it twice there or it will not let you log in. And then we'll do GID 204 period, connect. Yep. And sweet. So now I could create a folder just to make sure it worked. We'll call our new folder testing. I know it worked because we're logged in there, but we'll just check it to double check. Testing worked. Now if I were to come back over here to my hosting space, and I went back down to my file manager, kind of loads slow, but that's okay. It's automatically going to log me in. And now if I come into my public HTML, and now you'll notice there's a plus sign next to your name, Leslie. If I were to go in there, there's your testing folder. So all set. So really, really easy to set up. And I hope this helped. And let me know if you have any questions.